A lot of people have the misconception that the first part of tribulation is going to be full of turmoil and bad things happening, but they don't believe it's going to be devastating and horrifying like the last half of tribulation, and that is wildly inaccurate. And all that we've looked at so far, I think that point is clear. But in the last installment in the series, if there is any question about that, there won't be after this one. The fifth seal is the martyrdom of the saints, and we've already looked at this developing in the first video in this series. We've seen how this war against Christians is already being set up. It's just waiting for its general to take the lead. And as we're seeing this ramp up right now, in just a short amount of time, after the rapture happens, Christians will be public enemy number one. And this is going to happen at the very start of the soon coming tribulation. And I can't stress enough how we are seeing this beginning to develop right now. But like I've said, we've already covered that, and what I want to focus on here is the sixth seal. It's important to understand the order of the seals, trumpets, and bowls. The seventh seal is the passing out of the trumpets, which begins the trumpet judgments and then the bowls of wrath. We know from other parts of Revelation that the trumpet judgments will begin right before or right at the midpoint of tribulation. And we also know that the sixth seal is not just another view of the seventh bowl of wrath, but it's its own event. And it will also be in the first half of tribulation. And that's very important to understand and keep in mind when looking at the sixth seal because of how extreme it is. In Revelation 6 we read, "And I looked when he broke the sixth seal, and there was a great earthquake. And the sun became as black as sackcloth made of hair, and the whole moon became like blood. And the stars of the sky fell to the earth, as a fig tree drops its unripe figs when shaken by a great wind. The sky was split apart like a scroll when it is rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. Then the kings of the earth and the eminent people, and the commanders and the wealthy and the strong, and every slave and free person hid themselves in the caves and among the rocks of the mountains. And they said to the mountains and the rocks, 'Fall on us, and hide us from the sight of him who sits on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who is able to stand?'"
I don't know if it's something coming or a natural disaster. You hear of something big coming down the pike. Have you heard of these claims? And if so, do you have any idea what it may be?
Yes, I've heard of them. Yes, I'm aware of them, and I'm not able to have that conversation.
To the extent you can talk about what might be imminent, what is imminent?
Time is not a luxury that we can afford. The time has come. We need to start having the conversation collectively. We should have had it a while ago, but we really need to start having the conversation.
You're building a bunker out there in Wyoming?
The rule to Fight Club is you never talk about Fight Club. Right? So if you're building a bunker, you don't tell people because then everybody knows where to go when everything goes south. So, it would be remiss of me to not say that. Yeah, I think people look.
There is also a video circulating of a press conference between President Trump and the Finnish Prime Minister. They were meeting about icebreakers that were going to be delivered to America in 2028. And Trump let slip something very ominous.
Strategic perspective as well. So we appreciate the cooperation, and we're going to deliver the first one 2028.
Good. Just a little bit before a big event.
Yeah.
So that'll be good. That's great.
Yeah.
And
we're going to deliver the first one 2028.
Good. Just a little bit before a big event.
Yeah.
There are a lot of videos I could play for you pointing out governments and elites preparing for the event. But what is the event? Well, I think we actually already know, and we've already talked about this before. And yes, it is the sixth seal, which will happen in the first half of tribulation.
Earth's magnetic pole is on the move, and scientists just updated its position. Oh, you mean in January, the media, corporate press, scientists said the magnetic poles are shifting. Now, that doesn't mean there's going to be a cataclysm, but there are many theorists who are predicting that we are going to see a major pole shift. This will cause the planet to spin, to effectively move. The United States becomes the southern hemisphere and it gets real cold real quick. And then we can see that South America, Greenland, and a bunch of other places end up on the equator, including Antarctica. It's a really interesting 3D model that was just put out the other day. Actually, it may be older than that, but it was posted the other day as well. And with these power outages that hit in Europe and Puerto Rico, speculation and theories are that the Earth's magnetosphere is weakening and we may be looking at a cataclysmic event. Now, recently I interviewed Ben Davidson about this. He's the space weather guy on X, smart fellow. And he believes that we are looking at a cataclysmic pole shift, and it's going to, the weakening of the magnetosphere is going to fry our electronics, send us back to the Stone Age. How long do we survive after that? Earth's magnetic pole is on the move. Scientists update its position. We've got this from Smithsonian. It's from January. Earth's magnetic pole is shifting towards Siberia and raising questions about unusual movement. Okay, that's scary. They say the magnetic North Pole is distinct from the geographic North Pole, a fixed point where the Earth's axis meets its surface. Instead, magnetic north is the changing location where the planet's magnetic field lines converge. This field is generated by the churning of the planet's outer core, a layer of molten iron and nickel that begins roughly 1,800 miles beneath Earth's surface. As the fluid dynamics of the core change, the magnetic pole shifts over time in a process known as geodynamo. Now something unusual seems to be happening. The current behavior of magnetic north is something that we've never observed before. Yikes. Let's go down. For industries reliant on magnetic fields, such as aviation, shipping, and navigation, this movement is no small matter. GPS systems, planes, military equipment track the magnetic field and rely on accurate models. You guys ready for the hammer drop? What if the disasters that we're seeing in aviation are due to a magnetic pole shift? Not an idea I came up with. Other people have speculated this. How did the plane come in hot in Canada and then belly flop? Instruments were reading improperly, maybe? How did a helicopter crash into that plane? Instruments, once again, reading improperly? Maybe not. I mean, they said that lady was told to turn left and descend, and she didn't do it. Take a look at this. Open-Minded Approach posted this on X. This is the worst case scenario of the geophysical event. The outer part of the Earth, the crust of the mantle, suddenly shift by 104 degrees, relocating the north and south poles while the planet continues spinning in the same direction as before. Let me see if he's got a better video of this right here. Let's play this video. So here's the Earth, and you're going to see. Let me pause it. Actually, you can see the equator, North America up here, South America. You got it all. Now here's what gets interesting. The planet spins. We can see Indonesia, see Africa, South America. Everything seems normal. This is exothermic core mantle decoupling oscillation cycle state 1. Now check it out. You can see the shift starting to occur. The planet is now rotating off its axis. And what happens? Look at where the equator is now. You've got Russia. You've got is that Australia? Oh no, I'm sorry, that's Asia. Yeah, that's Russia. I was right. And you've got Asia and Australia now at the equator. Look at this, Antarctica now at the equator. Look at Chile. It's now rotating. This is incredible. If this were to actually happen, take a look at this. So the equator. This is really funny for those in South America. They probably aren't going to notice a whole lot in like Venezuela and Colombia and stuff, because all that's happening now is the sun is going to move. It's going to appear to go from south to north, which is crazy. Take a look at North America. It becomes very cold very quickly for a lot of people. The west coast of the United States, if this is true, is going to become like the South Pole. And for those of us that are in Florida, is going to get the weather patterns of Chicago. It's going to kill all of this fauna and flora. Look at this. Now, I don't know that it's true. Just an interesting video. Maybe it's all crazy. The belief here is North America will look something like this if the poles shift and we move south? Hey, wait a minute. Ocean levels rising? Need for electric cars? Sounds like a strategy you'd want to implement if the poles were going to shift and water was going to rise. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. What I'm saying is, I don't know, it's a fun idea to think about, I guess. Imagine this. The government knows the poles are going to shift. We saw that video from Tucker Carlson with Catherine Austin Fitts saying the U.S. government has built these underground facilities. I wonder. If the U.S. knew we were at risk for a major polar shift and an actual tilt, resulting in this, they're saying ocean levels are going to rise. They tell you it's because of climate change, but don't happen. That's why we're not seeing ocean levels rise, because climate change isn't going to make that happen. They say we need electric cars, solar power, wind power. That would be extremely important if our ability to produce oil and transport it was disrupted, as it will be. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have oil in a situation like this. Local areas will still be able to produce, for sure. Pumps. Refining it will be a little difficult. But in this scenario, let me throw it to the show Landman. He's got wind farms around pumps. And this female lawyer, she's like, alternative encroaching on, green energy encroaching on your space. Because they ain't green, it's alternative. The only reason they have wind farms out here is because they don't have the transmission lines to get the electricity to the pumps. So they use the wind turbines to power the pumps to get the oil. Exactly. How are you going to get the electricity to the oil pumps? You need wind, you need solar. Interesting. All I'm doing is throwing gas on the fire of speculation. I don't know for sure.
As we've seen throughout this series, these things that the Bible tells us will happen at the start and throughout tribulation are now beginning. And that's really the point of all of this. The point of this whole series is because when Jesus was talking about tribulation, he said this: "But when these things begin to take place, straighten up and lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near." And when Jesus said straighten up, he wasn't referring to your posture. He was referring to the way you are living, what you are doing, and how you are living your life for him or not. The time to straighten up and lift up your head is now.
And what we're going to be doing in the next few minutes is talking about the rapture of the church. I love this subject.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and frankly, everybody should. In fact, it's one of the easiest ways to get one crown, at least, if you long for his appearing, and we should long for his appearing.
My Bible is open here to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, and I'm going to read verse 11. "Wherefore, comfort yourselves together and edify one another even as you do."
Yeah.
And that's the little tagline at the end of a discourse on the rapture of the church.
Yeah.
Let's comfort one another.
Yeah. Which to me, that's one of the big signs that it has to be a pre-trib scenario. A lot of people, on the rapture, they say, no, it's a mid-trib. We get out of here at the middle of the 7-year trib. What? Some would say pre-wrath, which is 3/4 basically from our timeline. Some say post-trib, and they say we're going through the whole thing. I'm like, how am I supposed to encourage somebody with that? Jesus said it's the worst time in the history of mankind. So, we say, hey, Gary, just want to encourage you today. Hey, are you ready for this? This is just going to put you over the top.
I'm ready.
I don't care what you're dealing with. This is the salve that's going to calm any fears you got. Gary, get ready for the worst time in the history of mankind, because you're going to be in there halfway through, 3/4 of the way through, all the way through. How can you encourage one another if you say the church is going to be in the time frame it's impossible. It's insane.
And you bring up a good point, because a lot of people are doing that.
Exactly. But it goes, and so there's no encouragement. If we're in even a nanosecond of the 7-year tribulation, I didn't say Jesus, it's the worst time in the history of mankind. That's not encouraging. That's fearful. That's discouraging. But God has not given us a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. And He's promised that one day He's going to take us to spare us, Revelation 3:10, from the hour of trial that is coming upon the whole planet. We're not going to be there.
Now, I want to ask you a question, and you're a student of prophecy and of the rapture, and you have lectured on it for years. Why in the world is there a rapture of the church at all?
Well, it's part of the biblical pattern, right? Before God brings His judgment he spares his people. And people say, well, there's no evidence of a rapture in the Bible. And what Bible are you reading? Let's go back to the Old Testament. First time God judged his planet was what? The days of Noah.
Yes.
So everybody got wiped out. No. What did God do before he brought the judgment? He rescued Noah and his family.
Sure.
What's that? That's a typology. That before God brings his judgment on the wicked, he saves his people. Then you go fast forward, and even before that, you got the example of Enoch. He walked with God, and then all of a sudden he was taken. And so what's that? That's a type of a rapture. Go back to Elijah, right? And he was taken up visibly, right, into heaven. So this idea of a visible taking and a taking before judgment, it's all over the Old Testament, including, again, before judgment, specifically getting them to safety, is Lot. What happened? Until Lot was in a safe position, nothing was going to happen. But the moment he was safe, what happened? Bang, fire came down on Sodom and Gomorrah. It's the same thing, Gary, and that's what God promises. That's why he says, encourage one another. The church, his bride, is not destined for his wrath. Romans chapter 5, 1 Thessalonians 1, before the rapture, 1 Thessalonians 5, afterwards, says we are saved from, not appointed unto, we are rescued from God's wrath. Why? Because Jesus Christ does not beat his bride before he comes and gets her. Jesus Christ will rescue his bride before he brings the hammer down. That's the biblical model.
Right at the end of chapter 5, comfort yourselves with these words. You know, we know about the day of the Lord. You read the Old Testament, and there is this series of human errors and sins and revolutions and horrible historical periods. And then as you come toward the end of the Bible, you begin to get indications that there's going to be something called the day of the Lord in the end times.
Right.
And the day of the Lord is, I don't think, a place that you want to be.
Well, you don't, because there's many descriptions of the specific day of the Lord, Old and New Testament. And one of the things that the Bible calls that day, it's a time frame, is it's a day of God's wrath. And I just quoted to you 3 passages in the New Testament that says that as a Christian, we are not appointed unto that. Interesting you brought that up, because I love it when people bring this up, because people say, oh yeah, but I can prove to you that the church is going to be left behind in the 7-year tribulation. And they twist 2 Thessalonians 2. And so I want to read that to you and point that out. It says there, concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and our being gathered to him, the rapture, that is correct. We ask you, brothers, not to become easily unsettled or alarmed by some prophecy or report or letter supposed to come from us, saying that the day of the Lord has already come. The day of the Lord is a day of God's wrath. The Bible is very clear. When does the wrath of God begin to be poured out? The 7-year tribulation. Daniel 9:27, Revelation 6:1, that's when it all begins, right? And it says there, Revelation 6:1, the Lamb is the one who's opening the seals, and the Lamb, and the Lamb, and the Lamb. This is not man's wrath, it's not Satan's wrath. This is the wrath of God, and it starts at the beginning of the 7-year tribulation. So, therefore, do not become easily unsettled or alarmed by some prophecy report or letters supposed to come from us, saying that the day of the Lord, in other words, the 7-year tribulation, has already come. Don't let anyone deceive you in any way, for that day, not the rapture, he's talking about the day of the Lord, for that day, the day of the Lord, the 7-year tribulation, will not come until the rebellion occurs and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the man doomed to destruction. And what they do is when they say that day, they say, well, that's the rapture. That means you're going to be left behind at the rapture, because the day will not come, they say the rapture, until the man of lawlessness appears. So that means the day he's talking about is the day of the Lord, the 7-year tribulation. They're taking it out of context. So let me read it in the biblical context. Concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, our being gathered to him, we ask you, brothers, the rapture, we ask you not to become easily unsettled or alarmed by some prophecy, report, or letter supposed to come from us, saying that the day of the Lord, the 7-year tribulation, has already come. In other words, don't listen to these liars who came in. This is 2 Thessalonians. 1 Thessalonians, when we see the rapture, Paul clearly talks about the rapture. Encourage one another with these words. We're not going to be here. And so here comes 2 Thessalonians. He has to correct, after Paul left, false teachers came in and said basically the 7-year tribulation, the day of the Lord's already begun. You're in it. And that's what he says. Don't let anyone deceive you, right? In any way, because that day is not going to come, the 7-year tribulation, until the Antichrist appears, right? So my point is, Paul is actually correcting false teachers who came in after him, saying that the church is going to be left behind in the day of the Lord, the 7-year tribulation. That's the context. He clearly says, don't let anybody deceive you, because we're not going to be there. And then, if you go down, as he continues to describe that, he says, for the secret power of lawlessness is already at work. They're building the Christ's infrastructure, right? But the one, the church, who now holds it back, will continue to do so until he's taken out of the way. Taken out of the way, you know what that is in the Greek? Literally, to rise from the midst.
Wow.
That's what it says.
Rise from...
Exactly, Gary. So let me read it for you. For the secret power of lawlessness is already at work. They're building the infrastructure, but he hasn't made his appearance yet. But the one, the church who now holds it back, will continue to do so until he rises from the midst. Quote, what's the very next verse? And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord...
Now,
that's pre-trib, Gary, all the way.
You've been writing about the lawless one. I'm holding one of your books right now, Global Elites and the Antichrist.
Right.
This is all the conversation right now.
Yeah.
Even Christians who are not so serious are looking at where we're going in terms of a global government, a global economy, and so forth. There's a little, what are we going to do? Is there going to be a global gold standard? Is it going to be artificial intelligence controlling all of our economies? There's beginning to be a little anxiety, and then they're watching over the horizon saying, somebody's got to rise and control all of this. Mm-hmm. And the Bible predicts that, and as you just read, that we're going to go through this horror before we're taken out.
Yeah, there's no people say, well, you guys are just escapists. Well, I'm just preaching the Bible, but I'm not saying that we're going to leave here without problems. Jesus promised that we're going to be persecuted and hated, but that's what's called general persecution. The Bible is very clear that the 7-year tribulation is an outpouring of God's wrath. That's not the same thing.
You made a good point a minute ago when you talked about the Lord opening those seals, and which is the commencement of all of this.
That's the beginning of it. So
that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, exactly, right? Plus, it's obvious it hasn't happened yet because it clearly says by the second seal, that one, the Antichrist, the white horse rider, that's what starts at the false peace, the utopia, Daniel 9:27. He makes a covenant with people of Israel. Parallel passage. But it doesn't last very long because he's a liar, he's satanic. The next thing that happens is a global war breaks out, right? And it says 1/4 of the earth is annihilated. When does that ever happen, Gary? Never. It's a future event, right? Some people say, we're in it now. Are you kidding me? That's crazy. Some people even say we're in the millennium now. That comes after the 7-year tribulation, the second coming of Jesus. It's like, really? The Bible says in Isaiah 11 that we're going to have peace with nature. The wolf and the lamb and the lion and the bear, and you put a wolf and a lamb together in a cage, you get lamb chops. I mean, this is crazy for you to say that. So my point is this, Gary. This is why God gives us so much detail about the 7-year tribulation. Not because we're going to be in it, because we are not appointed unto his wrath. We've been saved. Jesus took the beating for us. He's not a wife beater. He doesn't beat his bride before he comes against her. But he tells us so much detail about this horrible time frame that those unfortunately left behind are going to deal with, so that we can warn those who are left behind that, hey man, you don't want to be there. And you need to take the way out and join us at the rapture before it's too late, because it's an imminent event. The rapture is imminent. It can happen at any moment. There's not one prophecy that needs to come to pass before the rapture can happen. It is imminent. So there's urgency, and that's not a bad urgency. It's an urgency that spurs us on to longing for his appearing, to getting excited for his appearing, because that is best case scenario, and to encourage us to get busy as the bride of Christ, telling as many people as you can, join us for the wedding, ma'am. Join us in the way out. Take the way out. Just like Noah was a preacher of righteousness for 120 years, trying to reach people, right? And things of that nature. We should have that same heart, trying to get as many people as we can into the ark of Jesus Christ this time before it's too late. Because right now we're seeing the preparation. The secret power of lawlessness is already at work. And once it gets built, the infrastructure, which is what we deal with this in our latest 2 documentaries, it says, then the church rises from the midst, and then he makes his appearance. The Antichrist cannot appear, Gary, 2 Thessalonians 2, until we disappear. He doesn't show up until we go up.
Say that again.
The Antichrist cannot appear until we disappear.
Okay.
That's what the Bible says, clearly.
Clearly.
He cannot show up until we go up. Because we're the ones, now it says the restraining influence, the restrainer. It's kateko in the Greek. And that means to withhold the course thereof. As a Christian, as a truth teller, we are to, yes, evangelize, but at the same time, we're the salt, the light, and the restraining influence. Against what? Against the infrastructure that we see being built of the Antichrist system.
A great point. And if there is one thing this world needs right now, it is restraint.
Right.
And we are the ones designated to do that.
Right, and that's why we need to get equipped, because you can't restrain against this building of the Antichrist kingdom if you comply or ignore or put your head in the sand. And the Bible very clearly warns about, do not love this world nor the things of this world, otherwise the love of the Father is not in you. And sometimes, just as a side note, what I've learned, Gary, over 30 plus years of pastoral ministry is usually the people that don't want to hear about like what we're talking about, even the rapture or signs that it's getting close with global events, which is a blessing from God, by the way, is they don't want to hear or say that's doom and gloom. It's like, well, first of all, what Bible you reading? Because my Bible tells me in Revelation chapter 1, blessed, not doom and gloom, not tortured. Blessed are those who read, who hear, who take to heart this prophetic message. By the way, Revelation, Apocalypsis, the unveiling of Jesus Christ. This book is all about Jesus Christ. You say you love him, so why don't you want to hear about his soon return? That's not a good sign, okay? But my point is, to some of these people, I believe the reason why they don't want to hear it is because, Gary, they love the things of this world. John said, don't do that, because you're going to be seduced away. The love of the Father is not in you. And they're more in love with this wicked world system than the world to come. And they need to get back on track with Christ.